Hello everybody, welcome back to Lupus Fitness 333. Today is Philosophical Talk number 31, and today's topic is Redefining Strength, okay? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Angel. Welcome back. This channel is to help people get strong physically, mentally, and spiritually, okay? Now, I mainly try to reach out to people with life-altering and life-changing diseases, but every now and then I do reach out to everyday people to help them overcome obstacles with practical solutions. Okay, so let's begin. Today's topic is we're gonna look at the type of strength that it requires you to have to deal with what I call the invisible war. Now, there are plenty of people, right, who, sorry about that. There are plenty of people who have some kind of challenge in their life, right? And in some cases, most cases actually, especially in our generation, my generation, there seems to be some kind of mental obstacle. Now, I'd rather call it a mental obstacle because at least that way you give yourself the thought process of that it can be overcome. Okay? Now, the next thing is a spiritual obstacle. Sometimes people have, I don't know how to explain it, but they have a crisis of not having enough willpower for things, or they haven't discovered themselves, or have some unfulfillment of some kind. Now this, I like to call that a spiritual thing. You know, it is what it is. Now as far as physical, usually that is some kind of ailment, like a disease, something that's not easily fixed, right? Obviously there's treatments for that, but we're looking for ways of easing your pain in a practical way with whatever effort you can do, all right? So with that, let's begin. Now, the first thing is, how do I say this? I'm going to read this thing, all right, that I wrote down. Here it goes. We are redefining strength as an unwavering spirit and a resilience against the onslaught of whatever you're dealing with, okay? Whatever obstacle that is in your way, whether, again, it's physical, mental, or spiritual, okay? And you got to be constantly working your strength up for this to be not as, how do I explain this? You want to be so strong that the pain doesn't, it's not that it doesn't leave, all right? It's still there, but you're so strong that it no longer phases you. Do you understand? Kind of like weightlifting. The weight doesn't change. You just gotten stronger. That's it. You've become more resilient, thus adding a new level of strength. You're able to tolerate or maybe even dismiss the quote-unquote onslaught that you're experiencing. Now, as far as it relating to life-altering and life-changing diseases, this is a positive, okay? For me, all right, this is my opinion. When you have this kind of challenge, right? This invisible fight, it is a call for change. It is the last call for change. The one before what I call solidification, all right? Now, I've been in and out of the hospital throughout my years of dealing with my disease, okay? every time I went to the hospital, I thought it was going to be my last day. For some people who are dealing with this dilemma, the call to change is that. Okay, the call to change is that. Something in your life is not working out. It's leading you to this path. And again, it's your last chance to change that. Now, obviously, it's not as clear. That's something that requires you to search within yourself or search externally. Now, for most, I don't want to make it into this, but from what I've noticed, people that have conditions that I know, men usually try to change something within themselves. And I notice women try to change something externally about them. Both obviously creates change, but some have a lasting change that ultimately helps them in the long run, improving their life overall. And others create a change that in the beginning does seem beneficial, but ultimately it causes more stress, more responsibility, and less satisfaction. You have to choose the right path for you to do what is beneficial for you in the long term, okay? Do not think of what is good now, because you might just lose the very strength that you're seeking, all right? The strength that we're seeking in this case would be a change. This change will ripple throughout the rest of your life. And it's best, in my opinion, to change within than to change what is externally around you. Because again, you can't control what's externally around you, because it's still your choice to think those things, to feel those things. You understand? If you change your perspective on what you feel and think, that's a greater change than changing what is external, okay? You can't control other people. You can't control other circumstances. You can influence them, sure. Maybe you can even manipulate them. But at the end of the day, manipulation requires the other party to cooperate, all right? And cooperation requires what? Some kind of compromise, some kind of agreement to terms. Not everybody will like the terms that you put on them. So there's that, okay? Now, by shifting our perspective on our conditions or our obstacles, right? We give ourselves a door or a window to obviously master and overcome the very thing that is making our life difficult, okay? In most cases, life-altering, life-changing diseases are stemmed from some form of stress, okay? Some form of stress, okay? Like I've mentioned in the last video in PT number 30, perfection is a lie. Sometimes that stress can come from chasing the perfect life, that it causes an enormous amount of stress, and your body and your mind and sometimes your spirit can't handle that level of stress because maybe you don't want to admit that it's too high or that it's unrealistic, okay? All right. Now, the next thing. All of this requires mental fortitude, all right? This level of strength that we're going to be redefining, right? Or the other form of redefining it, the second form, all right? The second definition is mental strength. When dealing with these types of invisible fights or invisible wars, whatever you want to call them, I call them invisible fights, you need to have mental mastery, okay? Mental fortitude. You need to be strong mentally. Why? Because again, it's an invisible fight. It's an invisible war. Nobody else sees it. Nobody else can feel it. Nobody else will understand it, okay? You're alone in that, okay? But just because you're alone doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean you can't handle it. If anything, you can. You just got to find a new way to look at it. All right? Now, the first thing I have here is obviously navigating your emotions. You're going to have a lot of conversations where people are going to want to know what's going on with you. That can be exhausting, all right? That could be triggering. That could even be saddening. That could be a whole wave of emotions. This requires you to be able to handle your emotions in these type of situations, okay? That's number one. Number two, you expose yourself to the grit that you have. Your inner grit is now being tested, all right? Because every day is going to be a challenge. Every day will be something new that you have to deal with. As far as people with depression, as far as people dealing with pain, as far as people dealing with, unpredictable symptoms of whatever is it that they're dealing with, that requires them to, again, grit their teeth and continue on with the day. Why? Because you can't complain to the world every time you have pains, because then you're going to look like you're just somebody who likes to be negative, or is just downright just a negative person that nobody wants to be around. Simple as that. It sucks, but it's true. The last thing, the other thing that brings more mental fortitude to you is creating small victories. All right? Celebrate your small wins, because in order for you to make a big win, you have to appreciate all the small things in your life. Okay? All the little things that were challenges or that are challenges now, you should celebrate them. Thus, it'll slowly up your mood, up your spirit or your soul, and then it'll reach to your mind, and then the mind will reach to your body, okay? That's usually how it works. Okay, last thing, all right? Here's my closing statement, all right? I wanted to make this video short because it should be straightforward, all right? Strength comes in many forms. People who are dealing with mental and spiritual problems, you don't have a lot of support. And even if you do go to therapy or go to, a little small support group or a community or something like that, you're still dealing with it on a 24-hour basis, all right? Maybe you talk with them for an hour, maybe 30 minutes, I don't know. But your battle is your battle. You have to be able to rely on yourself, okay? So here's my closing statement, all right? Your success and overcoming and adaptation of your battle is built upon small victories that culminate into that one big win, all right? Just like I said earlier, all right? That opens the doors to a new world, all right? And this is true. If you get the ball rolling, little by little, you'll slowly level yourself up to the point where now you're opening yourself up to the next level, to the new world. And then you got to start the process all over again. But again, if you're in the habit of celebrating the small victories, the big one, again, you will naturally jump for joy. And then you starting over will seem easier, because now you have a roadmap, or at least a time frame of how long it should take. Now again, that's easier said than done, but again, the invisible fight is yours and yours alone. Now you could crumble under the fight or steel yourself and make every little obstacle a small battle that you're wanting to win. You understand? And this, just like in battle, just like an actual fight, every time you beat the victory, you should have a boost in confidence. And every time you lose, don't think of it as defeating yourself. Think of it as a learning process, okay? Where could I have done better? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And whatever I did wrong, how can I become better so that I don't have to go through that again, or avoid that mistake, or whatever, adapt to that. Never look at a loss as failure, a complete failure. It's always an opportunity to learn, okay? And with that, my name is Angel. Thank you for watching Lupus Fitness 333. This is Philosophical Talk number 31, Redefining Strength. Please like and subscribe. Send this video to whoever you think will benefit from this. Obviously, this video is not just for people with life-altering or life-changing diseases. It's also for people who are dealing with silent battles, okay, or invisible wars. Again, thank you. Bye-bye.